The Grand Chamber was the largest room in the known galaxy. It floated in space above a dead world called Thessar Prime. Inside, thousands of aliens sat in rising circles that went up and up until they disappeared into darkness. Every species in the Galactic Council had a seat here. Some had been members for millions of years. Their empires stretched across 1,000 stars. They had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean, and at the very bottom, in the smallest section, stood the humans. Ambassador Park Yuna walked to the central podium. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. She was 53 years old, with gray in her black hair, and lines on her face that told stories of too many battles fought with words instead of weapons. She had been Earth's voice in this chamber for 15 years. In all that time, she had never once raised her voice. She had never begged. She had simply asked, again and again, for what was fair. Today would be different. High Arbiter Vaughn watched her from his throne above. He was tall and thin, with skin like blue glass and eyes that held no warmth. His species, the Thessari, had founded the Council 3 million years ago. They believed they owned the galaxy. Perhaps they did. You may speak, Vaughn said. His voice was bored. Yuna looked up at him. Then she looked at the thousands of faces watching her. Some were curious. Most were not even paying attention. A group of Valorans in the military section were laughing at something on their screens. The trade minister, a fat creature named Kelos with 6 arms, was eating a meal. She had seen this before. Every time she came here, it was the same. I stand before you today, Yuna began, to present humanity's final petition to the Galactic Council. The word final made a few heads turn. Not many. For 200 years, humans have been members of this council. In that time, we have asked for 3 things. First, equal voting rights. Our single vote means nothing against species with hundreds. Second, fair trade agreements. We pay 3 times more than any other species for the same goods. Third, protection from exploitation. Human workers are sold into slavery on 12 different worlds, and the council does nothing. She paused. The chamber was a little more quiet now. Every year, we make these requests. Every year, they are denied. We are told we are too young, too emotional, too primitive. She looked directly at Vaughn. We are told to wait, to be patient, to earn our place. Vaughn smiled. It was not a kind smile. And you have been patient, Ambassador. The Council appreciates this. But surely you understand. Your species is only 300,000 years old. The Thessari have existed for 20 million. You cannot expect equality with those who were building empires when your ancestors were still climbing trees. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Valorans laughed loudest. Yuna did not react. She had heard worse. I understand, she said quietly. I understand perfectly. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small object. It was a crystal sphere, no bigger than her fist, filled with swirling light. This was humanity's token of membership, given to them when they first joined the council. It represented their place in the galactic community. She placed it on the podium. Humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, she said. Effective immediately. The silence that followed was different. It was the silence of genuine surprise. Elder Sifa rose from her seat. She was ancient even by galactic standards, a being of living light who had existed since before most stars were born. Unlike the others, she had always treated humans with respect. Now her glow flickered with alarm. Ambassador, please reconsider. This is a permanent decision. Once you leave, you cannot return for 10,000 years. That is the law. Yuna nodded. We know the law. We accept it. Trade Minister Kelos stopped eating. This is foolish, he said, bits of food falling from his mouth. Where will you trade? Who will buy your goods? You need us. Perhaps, Yuna said. Perhaps not. War Chief Draal, a massive creature covered in bone armor, stood up in the military section. Let them go, he growled. Humans are weak. They contribute nothing. We lose nothing. Exactly, Vaughn agreed. He leaned back in his throne, looking amused. Ambassador, you are making a mistake. Your people will suffer without the Council's protection. You will face the dangers of space alone. In 100 years, maybe less, you will come crawling back and beg us to let you return. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. High Arbiter, in 200 years, you have taught humanity many things. You taught us that kindness is weakness. You taught us that fairness must be earned through power, not given through justice. You taught us that the galaxy respects only those who can survive alone. She picked up the crystal sphere. So we will survive alone. She dropped the sphere. It shattered on the floor, and the light inside faded and died. Do not follow us, she said. Do not contact us. Do not look for us. Humanity is done. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps were the only sound. Elder Sifa called out, Ambassador, please. The Council can change. We can discuss, but Yuna did not stop. She did not look back. The great doors closed behind her. The chamber erupted in noise. Arguments. Laughter. Confusion. High Arbiter Vaughn raised his hand for silence. Enough, he said. They will return within a decade, humbled and apologetic. Until then, let us continue with real business. The Council moved on. The humans were forgotten before the hour was done, but Elder Sifa sat in her seat, her light dim, and felt something she had not felt in a million years: fear. 3 months after Ambassador Park Yuna walked out of the Grand Chamber, the Sol system was alive with activity. Ships filled the space between planets, like silver fish swimming through a black ocean. Construction platforms orbited Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Lights blinked everywhere. Engines roared without sound in the vacuum. Humanity was preparing to leave, and they were not wasting a single moment. Admiral Kang Tae-soo stood on the observation deck of the command station above Mars. He was 61 years old, with a shaved head and a face that had seen too many battles. His uniform was simple, black with a single silver star. He did not need medals to show his rank. Everyone knew who he was. Through the window, he watched the greatest fleet ever built by human hands. 10,000 ships, carriers, cruisers, transports, hospital ships, farming vessels, factory ships. Each one was filled with families, supplies, and hope. Dr. Han Nari walked up beside him. She was small, with round glasses and messy hair tied back in a ponytail. She looked like a university professor, not the most brilliant scientist humanity had ever produced. But her brain had solved the impossible. She had found a way out. The gates are ready, she said. All 7 of them. We can begin whenever you give the order. 5. Tae-soo nodded slowly. How many in the first wave? 3 billion. The Mars colonies, the moon settlements, and the orbital stations. Earth will follow in the second wave. Everyone should be through within 72 hours. 3 billion people, moving to another dimension, to a place no alien had ever seen, no council ship could ever reach. It should have been impossible. But Nari had made it possible. And the gates? Tae-soo asked. After we're through? They'll collapse. Anyone who follows us will be destroyed. It's a one-way door. Good. Captain Lee Sung-ho's voice crackled through the communication system. Admiral, we have a visitor. Trade Minister Kellos is requesting permission to dock. He says he wants to negotiate. Tae-soo almost smiled. Almost. Let him dock. I'll speak with him. 20 minutes later, Kellos stood in the command station's meeting room. He was sweating, which was strange for his species. His 6 arms kept moving, fidgeting with his robes. He had brought no guards, no assistants. He had come alone. Admiral, Kellos said, surely we can discuss this. The Council has reconsidered. We can offer you better trade rates. A second vote in the Assembly. Perhaps even a seat on the Commerce Committee. Tae-soo sat across from him, hands folded on the table. A second vote, out of 10,000. It's a start. These things take time. You must understand. Trade Minister, let me tell you what I understand. Tesu's voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. I understand that for 200 years, humans have been treated like animals. Our people have been enslaved. Our technology has been stolen. Our requests have been laughed at. And now, when we finally decide to leave, you offer us crumbs. Kelos opened his mouth, but Tesu continued. I understand that you are not here because you respect us. You are here because you are afraid. Somehow, somewhere, someone finally realized that humans might actually be important. So you came running with your little offers, hoping to keep us trapped. That's not. It is. Tesu stood. The answer is no. Humanity is leaving. Nothing you offer will change that. Go back to your council and tell them this. We came in peace. We leave in peace. But if anyone follows us, they will not return. Kelos stared at him. For the first time, he seemed to truly see the human standing before him. Not a primitive creature from a young species. A leader. A warrior. A man who had made a choice and would not break. You're making a mistake, Kelos whispered. Perhaps. But it's our mistake to make. Guards escorted Kelos back to his ship. Within an hour, he was gone. Colonel Bae-Hyun reported from Earth's surface. Admiral, we've found 3 more spy drones, Council make. They've been watching the construction for weeks. Destroy them. Already done. But they know something is happening. They just don't know what. Tesu looked out the window at the fleet. They'll find out soon enough. At midnight, Earth time, the evacuation began. The first exodus gate opened above Mars. It looked like a wound in space. A circle of pure white light that hummed with energy. Ships began flying through in perfect formation, one after another, disappearing into the light. On every human world, the same scene played out. Families gathered in transport stations. Children held their parents' hands. Old people looked back at the homes they would never see again. Some cried, some prayed, but all of them kept moving forward. Captain Lee Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the flagship, The Last Dawn. First wave complete, he reported. 3 billion souls safely through, no problems. The second wave began. Earth emptied. The great cities went dark, one by one. Paris, Tokyo, New York, Cairo. The lights that had burned for centuries finally died. Ambassador Park Yuna was on the last transport to leave Earth. She looked down at the blue planet through a small window. Her home. Humanity's birthplace. They were leaving it behind forever. Dr. Hanari sat beside her. Having second thoughts? Yuna shook her head. No. I'm just saying goodbye. We could have stayed, fought for change. We fought for 200 years. They didn't listen. They never would have listened. Yuna turned away from the window. Sometimes, the only way to teach someone your worth is to leave. The transport entered the exodus gate. White light filled the cabin. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then they were through. Behind them, the gate collapsed. The Sol system fell silent. Earth floated in the darkness, beautiful and empty. The Galactic Council would not realize what had happened for 3 more days. By then, it would be far too late. Humanity was gone. And they had taken everything with them. 6 months after the humans vanished, the Grand Chamber was no longer a place of bored arrogance. It was a place of fear. High Arbiter Vaughn sat on his throne, but he did not look powerful anymore. His blue skin had turned pale. His eyes, once cold and dismissive, now darted from speaker to speaker with growing panic. The chamber was full, every seat taken. No one was laughing. No one was eating. Everyone was listening. Trade Minister Kelos stood at the central podium, his 6 arms trembling as he held his reports. The numbers do not lie, he said. Galactic trade has fallen by 40%, 40% in 6 months. Voices erupted throughout the chamber. Kelos raised his arms for silence. You must understand what humans did for us. They traded with everyone. The Valorans hate the Thessari. The Dren refused to speak with the Koloth. Ancient wars, ancient hatreds. No one trusted anyone, except the humans. They were neutral. They dealt fairly with every species. They moved goods between empires that would never deal with each other directly. He set down his reports. Without them, those trade routes have collapsed. Species are hoarding resources. Prices are rising. 3 colony worlds have already reported food shortages. Artie, War Chief Drawl stood up, his bone armor clicking. Trade is not my concern. War is. His voice was a deep growl that silenced the room. I bring worse news. He activated a holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, with large sections marked in red. The hive swarm, Drawl said. For 80 years, they have been contained to the eastern reach. We always wondered why they never expanded. Now we know. The room went silent. The humans were fighting them, Drawl continued. Secretly, without telling us, without asking for help. They had a network of defense stations along the border, armed with weapons we have never seen. When they left, they destroyed those stations. Now there is nothing between the swarm and the core worlds. He pointed at the red areas on the map. In 6 months, the swarm has taken 14 star systems. 30 billion dead. And they are moving faster every day. High Arbiter Vaughn finally spoke. Why did the humans not tell us? Why did they fight alone? Drawl laughed, but there was no humor in it. Would you have helped them? Would you have sent your ships to fight beside the species you called primitive and emotional? No. They knew the truth. They protected us because they chose to. And we never even thanked them. Elder Sifa rose slowly. Her light was dim, flickering like a candle about to die. There is more, she said. The scientific community has reported failures across all sectors. Research stations have gone silent. Experiments have stopped. Do you know why? No one answered. Because humans worked on almost every major project in the galaxy. They asked to participate. And we let them, thinking they would learn from us. But they were teaching us. They solved problems we could not solve. They made discoveries we took credit for, and now they are gone, and we do not know how to continue their work. She looked at Vaughn with eyes full of sorrow. We called them children. But children do not hold an empire together. We were the children. Spoiled and blind. Vaughn slammed his hand on his throne. Enough. We do not need humans. We survived for millions of years before they existed. We will survive without them. Then explain the plague on Kelos Prime. Someone shouted from the crowd. The humans cured it 30 years ago. Now it has returned. And we cannot replicate the cure. Explain the power failures on the colony worlds, another voice added. Human engineers built those reactors. We cannot fix them. Explain the diplomatic crisis with the Dren, a third voice cried. Humans mediated every meeting for a century. Now, the Dren are threatening war. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Species shouted at each other. Old hatreds resurfaced. Accusations flew. Vaughn tried to restore order, but no one was listening to him anymore. In the middle of the noise, War Chief Drawl made a decision. He walked to the podium and activated his personal communicator. Fleet Command. This is War Chief Drawl. Prepare an expedition to the Sol System. We are going to follow the humans. Kelos grabbed his arm. The humans said not to follow. They said anyone who tried would not return. I do not take orders from primitives, Drawl growled. 2 weeks later, Drawl's fleet arrived at the Sol System. 50 warships, the finest in the Velaran Empire. They found Earth silent and dark. The human stations were empty. The colonies were abandoned. And floating in space above Mars, they found the remains of an Exodus gate. It was inactive, just a ring of dead metal. But their sensors detected energy traces. Something had been here, something powerful. Drawl ordered his engineers to reactivate the gate. They worked for 3 days. Finally, The gate flickered to life. A circle of pale light. "Send a probe through," Drawl commanded. The probe entered the gate. Its signal vanished instantly. "Send another." Same result. Drawl stared at the gate. Then he made the decision that would haunt the galaxy forever. "All ships, follow me. We're going through." 50 warships entered the gate. On the other side, there was nothing. No stars, no planets, no humans. Just an endless white void that stretched forever. The ship's engines failed. Communications died. Life support began to shut down. Drawl stood on his bridge as the cold crept in. He finally understood. The humans had not just left. They had locked the door behind them. And they had booby-trapped it. "They warned us," he whispered. "They told us not to follow." His last thought, as the cold took him, was of Ambassador Park Yuna's face as she walked out of the Grand Chamber. She had not been angry. She had not been sad. She had been free. Back in the Sol system, the Exodus Gate collapsed forever. Drowl's fleet was never seen again. When the news reached the Council, no one spoke for a very long time. 5 years of silence. 5 years of darkness. 5 years of slow death. Elder Sifa sat alone in her quarters on Thessar Prime. She was the last of the original council members still alive. High Arbiter Vaughn had been assassinated 2 years ago, killed by his own guards during a food riot. Trade Minister Kellos had died of a plague that swept through the capital. War Chief Drawl was gone, lost in the void with his entire fleet, and the galaxy was burning. Through her window, Sifa could see the lights of the city below. There were fewer lights now. Fewer people. The capital that once held 100 billion souls now housed barely 10 billion. The rest had fled, died, or simply vanished. She activated her communication console. For the 1,000th time, she recorded a message. "This is Elder Sifa of the Galactic Council, speaking to any human who might hear this. I am reaching into the void, hoping my words will find you." Her voice cracked. "I am sorry. I am sorry for how we treated you. I am sorry for the contempt, the cruelty, the blindness. You deserved better. You deserved so much better." She paused, gathering her strength. "Please come back. We are dying without you. The hive swarm has consumed half the galaxy. Billions are dead. Those who survive fight among themselves for scraps. Everything you built, everything you gave us, is falling apart." She lowered her head. "I know we do not deserve your help. I know you owe us nothing. But I am begging you. Not for myself. For the children who never wronged you. For the innocent who are paying for our sins." She ended the recording and sent it into space. Aimed at the coordinates where the Sol system used to be. She had sent this message every day for 3 years. There had never been a response. There never would be. On a small refugee ship called the Wanderer, a young alien named Rin worked in the archives. She was barely 20 cycles old, a creature of silver scales and large dark eyes. Her species, the Koloth, had been nearly wiped out by the swarm. She and 300 others were all that remained. The Wanderer drifted through dead space, searching for safe harbor. There was none. Every world they approached was either destroyed, hostile, or dying. The galaxy had become a graveyard. Rin spent her days reading. Specifically, she read everything she could find about humans. The archives were full of their history, their technology, their culture, but most of it was buried, hidden, dismissed as unimportant. She had to dig deep to find the truth. What she found changed everything. The humans had been everywhere. They had cured diseases that killed millions. The Thessari plague? Human doctors had stopped it. They had asked for nothing in return. The Valoran power grid? Human engineers had designed it. They had shared the technology freely. The peace between the Dren and the Koloth? Human diplomats had spent 50 years building it, meeting after meeting, never giving up. And the hive swarm. Rin found records of human soldiers fighting and dying on the border, year after year, holding the line against an enemy that never stopped coming. They had protected everyone. No one had known. No one had cared to know. Rin compiled her research into a report. She titled it, The Hidden Gift: What Humanity Did for the Galaxy. She broadcast it on every channel she could reach. The response was immediate and devastating. Species that had mocked humans now wept. Leaders who had dismissed them as primitives now called themselves fools. The truth spread across the galaxy like fire. Humans had been the foundation of everything, and the Council had driven them away. But it was too late for guilt, too late for understanding. The humans were gone, and they were never coming back. Far away, in a dimension the galaxy could not reach, humanity had built something new. Admiral Kang Tae-Soo was old now. His hair was white, his body slow. But his eyes were still sharp, and his mind still clear. He sat in a garden on New Terra, the capital of human civilization, and watched children playing on the grass. 8 billion humans had become 12 billion. New cities rose on a dozen worlds. There was no war, no slavery, no species looking down on them. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity was free. Dr. Hanari sat beside him. She was old too, but she still wore her round glasses and her messy ponytail. Some things never changed. We received another message from the old dimension, she said. From Elder Sifa. Tae-Soo nodded. I know. She's begging us to return. She says the swarm has reached the core worlds. Billions are dying. Tae-Soo watched the children run and laugh. They had never known fear. They had never known contempt. They had been born into a world where humans were respected, valued, loved. What do you think we should do? Nari asked. Tae-Soo was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I think of Ambassador Park Yuna. She died 3 years ago. Peacefully. In her sleep. Do you know what her last words were? Nari shook her head. She said, we made the right choice. She had no regrets. None. He turned to look at Nari. His old eyes were full of something complicated. A mix of pain and peace. They treated us like animals for 200 years. They laughed at us, stole from us, enslaved us. And when we finally left, they didn't try to stop us. They didn't apologize. They just waved goodbye and went back to their business. He shook his head. Now they're suffering, and they want us to save them. Again. We could help, Nari said softly. We have the power. We could. Tae-Soo reached out and touched a flower growing beside him. But if we go back, what message does that send? That we can be treated like dirt, and will still come running when they call? That our dignity means nothing as long as they need us? He pulled his hand back. No. We gave them everything, and they gave us nothing. Now they can learn what it means to be alone. Just like they taught us. He stood up slowly, his old bones aching. Close the communication channel. No more messages, no more contact. Humanity moves forward. Nari nodded. She understood. It was not cruelty. It was not revenge. It was simply the final lesson. Some doors, once closed, stay closed forever. 100 years had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was unrecognizable. The Galactic Council existed only in memory. Its great chamber above Thesar Prime had been destroyed decades ago, torn apart by the hive swarm. The capital world itself was a ruin. Its cities empty, its people scattered across the stars like seeds in the wind. The swarm controlled everything from the eastern reach to the galactic core. Trillions had died. Species that had existed for millions of years had been wiped out completely. Their names forgotten, their histories erased. The survivors hid in the dark corners of space, always running, never safe. Rin was an elder now. Her silver scales had faded to gray. Her dark eyes, once bright with curiosity, were tired and sad. She had spent her life studying humans, teaching others about what they had lost. It had not changed anything, but she kept teaching anyway, because it was all she could do. She stood on the bridge of a refugee ship called Hope's End. It was a terrible name, but honest. 300 souls remained on board. Koloth, Thesari, Velaran, Dren, Old enemies living together because they had no choice. The hatreds of the past seemed foolish now. What did ancient wars matter when everyone was dying? Elder Rin, the pilot called out. We're approaching the Sol system. Rin's heart beat faster. The Sol system. Humanity's birthplace. No one had been there in decades. The swarm had not bothered with it. There was nothing left to consume, but Rin had found something in the old archives. A rumor. Really. A whisper from the early days after the Exodus. Some said the humans had left something behind. A message. A gift. A way out. It was probably nothing. But probably nothing was better than definitely nothing. The ship entered the Sol system slowly. The planets floated in darkness, silent and cold. Mars was red and empty. Jupiter spun alone. And there, in the center, was Earth. Rin had seen pictures of Earth before. Blue oceans, green land, white clouds. A jewel in the void. Now, it was gray and brown. The oceans had dried. The forests had died. 100 years without humans had left their homeworld a corpse. Scanning for energy signatures, the pilot said. Wait, I'm getting something. It's faint, but it's coming from Earth's moon. They approached the moon carefully. And there, half buried in the gray dust, they found it. A small building, human architecture, still powered, even after a century. Its lights blinked slowly, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Rin led a team to the surface. They entered the building and found a single room. In the center stood a pedestal with a holographic projector. I think it's a message, someone said. Rin touched the projector. It activated immediately. A woman appeared in the air before them. She was old, with gray hair and lines on her face. But her eyes were clear. And her voice was strong. My name is Park Yuna, the hologram said. I was humanity's last ambassador to the Galactic Council. I recorded this message 100 years ago, just before we left. If you're seeing it, then the galaxy has fallen. Rin felt tears running down her scaled cheeks. She had studied this woman her entire life, and now, finally, she was hearing her voice. We knew this would happen, Yuna continued. We knew that without us, the old hatreds would return. We knew the swarm would spread. We knew everything would collapse. And we left anyway. She paused. Not because we wanted revenge. Not because we enjoyed watching you suffer. But because staying would have meant accepting that we had no value except as servants. The hologram flickered for a moment, then stabilized. We could not save a galaxy that refused to respect us, but we could save ourselves. And we did. Yuna's expression softened. But we are not cruel. We remember what it was like to be small and afraid. We remember what it felt like when no one would help us. So we left you this. People Thard. A star map appeared beside her image. It showed coordinates, a location deep in space that Rin did not recognize. These coordinates lead to a dimensional pocket we created. A small sanctuary. It is not large enough for everyone, but it can hold survivors. Thousands. Perhaps tens of thousands. There is food, water, shelter, enough to start again. Yuna looked directly at the camera, as if she could see Rin standing there a century later. We will not return. The galaxy you knew is gone, and we have no wish to rebuild it. But we will not let the innocent die for the sins of the guilty. Go to these coordinates. Our ships will be waiting. They will take you somewhere safe. The hologram began to fade. One last thing, Yuna said. In the new place, there is only one rule. Everyone is equal. No species above another. No contempt, no exploitation, no slavery. If you cannot accept this, do not come. But if you can. She smiled, and for a moment, she looked almost kind. Then welcome home. The hologram disappeared. Rin stood in silence for a long time. Then she turned to her crew. Set course for those coordinates, she said. We're leaving. The journey took weeks. Other refugee ships joined them along the way. answering a beacon that Rin had broadcast across all frequencies. By the time they reached the coordinates, there were 50 ships, carrying nearly 20,000 souls. And waiting for them, just as Yuna had promised, were human vessels. They were beautiful, sleek and silver, humming with power, larger than anything the refugees had ever seen. They hung in space like guardians, patient and calm. A voice came through the communication system. It was warm and gentle. "This is Captain Bei Jiyoung of the Human Rescue Fleet. We've been waiting for you. Please follow us through the gate. You are safe now." The refugees followed the human ships through a shimmering portal. On the other side, they found a world of green fields and blue skies. Human cities glittered in the distance. People were waiting on the ground below, holding food, blankets, medicine. Rin was the first to step off her ship. Her old legs trembled as she touched solid ground. A young human woman approached her. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Welcome," the woman said. "My name is Bei Somi. My great-grandfather was Colonel Bei Hyun. He fought in the last war before the Exodus. He always hoped that someday we could help others the way we wished someone had helped us." Rin's voice broke. "Why? After everything we did to your people, why would you help us?" Somi took her hand. "Because we remembered what it felt like to be small, and we chose to be better than those who made us feel that way." Around them, humans and aliens embraced. Children who had never known safety ran laughing across the grass. Old enemies sat together and shared meals. The past was not forgotten, but it was finally over. Rin looked up at the sky of this new world. It was full of stars she did not recognize, but they were beautiful, and for the first time in 100 years, she felt hope.